Two different tech storms have hit the Modi government in the last 24 hours. First, there was the alarming suggestion that the COWIN app used for vaccines by millions of Indians had been breached. I found my own screenshots posted on social media purportedly releasing my Aadhar and passport details into the public domain. And then came the hit from former CEO of Twitter, Jack Dorsey. I'm Barkha Dutt, you're with the Mojo Story. Our focus today, as I said, is on these two different tech storms that have hit the Modi government in the last 24 hours. The former CEO of Twitter, Jack Dorsey, on a television program suggested that at the height of the farmers' protests, the Modi government basically pushed for censorship and threatened that Twitter could be shut down if the platform did not oblige by blocking what the government argued were inflammable posts and accounts. Dorsey even referenced the fact that the government suggested raids on the homes of Twitter employees. All of this has come on the back of the focus on the COWIN app. Each one of us in India used it to get a vaccine. And to do so, we had to submit all of our private data details, the most critical details, Aadhar, passport details, among them. The government has denied both of these suggestions, Dorsey's claim as well as the suggestion of a data breach in the COWIN app. But Rajiv Chandrasekhar intriguingly does refer to a previous stealing of data. How did this happen? How do we understand the new politics that is created by new technology? The Congress, among other opposition parties, has hit the government hard on both of these issues. On both of these issues, there has been a flat and an aggressive denial by the government. But one thing is clear, new politics is going to be increasingly defined by new technology. Let's introduce our guests as we look at both of these controversies. Joining us from the BJP is its spokesperson, Vinita Hariharan. Good to see you, ma'am. Also joining us is one of India's foremost technology experts, Pranesh Prakash. Always a pleasure, Pranesh. Also joining us from our COVID pandemic years, and we're seeing him after a long time, one of India's best-known doctors, Dr. Ishwar Gilada, an infectious diseases expert. Because remember, if this is happening in the space of public health, the kind of alarm and anxiety it may create among people the next time they're asked to place their private details on an app. Also joining us from the Congress is its spokesperson, retired Wing Commander Anuma Acharya. Good to see you, ma'am. And finally joining us is political analyst, usually a supporter of the government, but with some caveats and criticism sometimes, PKD Nambiar. Good to see all of you. Before I come to Dorsey, because I think that will take us straight into a kind of political domain, let's start with the COWIN app. And before I get the political voices, I want to start with the expert. Pranesh, like I said, I'm in New York right now. I landed to find screenshots of redacted details of my Aadhar card alongside other public figures that had purportedly been, I don't want to use the word hacked, had been, compromised. The government said this is a lie, but the minister did not deny that there had been or possibly been a previous stealing of data. What do you make of this controversy, a bot-driven access of the COWIN app denied flatly by the government, but not a denial that these details could be out there in the public domain somewhere? Pranesh Prakash.
I think there are two things that are very clear. One, that multiple journalists and tech professionals did gain access through a Telegram bot to personal information relating to vaccination. Now, some of this information must have come from COWIN database, including information of how, because you could use COWIN to register for multiple people from the same phone number, and you could search again for those same people using that same phone number. So that means that some of this data must have come through the COWIN database and not elsewhere. And so there clearly is information relating to vaccination, relating to the COWIN database in this data. Was this data, the COWIN database, directly accessed? Was it accessed through a proxy database, etc.? Is that what the denial by the minister means when he says that the COWIN database or the COWIN app wasn't directly compromised? Does he mean that it was indirectly compromised in some form? I don't know. But what is clear is that there
Is the database
is a
compromised
compromise.
according to you? Is the database
Yes,
compromised according to
that
you?
much is clear. And India Today ran a story where they actually spoke to a person who claims to be the hacker responsible for this. And he says he doesn't have a full copy of the database, a full clone of the database, but access this through a service meant for auxiliary health midwives, auxiliary nurse midwives. I beg your pardon. And so this seems as though it was part of what is the Ayushman Bharat uh, digital mission, and somehow some parts of those were compromised, and at least people who should not have had access to this data did get access. And then the larger question looms, which is why, even if this actually was how it was done, why do auxiliary nurse midwives have such easy access to the data of a billion plus people? And so clearly, the minister spoke, I would say, misspoke before an actual investigation was through, and before the results of that investigation were placed before him.
Yeah.
And he should retract his statements, and the government should lay out the details of the investigation and the report when it comes out, when it
Okay,
gets to them.
okay. So that is a very unambiguous statement by you that while we do not know the mechanics of the accessing of this information, the information has been accessed potentially of millions of Indians. We don't know if is the information, accessed targeted? Is it of select individuals? But it could potentially be of anybody that the hackers choose. That is Pranesh Prakash's assessment. Dr. Gilada, before I open this up for what will become a political debate, my question to you as a public health leader, what does this concern? For most people, for the average Indian, this is too technical to understand. They don't understand bots. They don't understand this auxiliary nursing sort of portal that Pranesh references. They don't even know what it means, except that they're going to worry that their Aadhar details, their passport details are out there. And the next time somebody legitimately needs that information, they're going to hesitate to put it there. Either that, or we just assume that every time we upload any information, nothing is private anymore. How does this impact the public health space, these concerns, Dr. Gilada?
See, all these 3 years we are used to leakage. First time the virus was leaked from Wuhan. Till today, we don't know whether it was by design or by accident. And there are a lot of leakages in the entire process. And it took a lot of time to build people confidence. During the time when people were dying and they were sick and they were hospitalized, at that time you do anything, they will agree. You ask them Aadhar, passport, all details, personal detail, sexual detail, they will all agree. But once that job is over, I think we should stop it somewhere. Till today, you go to many websites, it says that we are COVID impacted. You call helpline, they said that because of COVID impact, our responses are delayed. What is this nonsense? COVID is all over more than a year before, almost 15 months before. So I think when something is already over, we should stop it. Secondly, data security is very important. Currently, it has become a data commodity or data economy. And whether it is the COWIN is supposed to be one of the best app which is propagated all over the world. So under this situation, it should not have been any other leakages which were seen day in and day out. A lot of times people call you that we are offering a credit card and your entire form is filled in. You just have to sign. How do they get all these details? So I think everywhere there's a leakage and we need to be very much proactive in safeguarding.
As a doctor, what concerns you the most right now? One, I think you made a very
What I
important
was
point.
coming to.
People
That,
who
that,
go looking for health services are desperate. They are
that
not
was
going to actually be talking about data privacy when they need a health service.
You see, I was coming to that. There was one major leakage in Singapore where all HIV positive people data was leaked out with all the name, identity, and everything. So, how will people believe and behave thereafter? So, if you think you want to get people's cooperation, you should have some certain system to safeguard that interest. Many times, you have only four digit out of 16 digit available, but that should have been done wrong back. We in healthcare system, when we send sample, we just use initial like IG means Igilada or IG 57-year-old or 65-year-old. We put that way. So we identify and it is only codified, and we don't see any data leakage from our clinic. So if it is government of India, if it is a security department, if it is a COWIN app, if it is a Arogya Setu, if it is a Suvidha, how much people we are troubled with that air Suvidha. You are traveling from somewhere, you air somewhere, you put Aadhar, you put your passport, you put entire detail, and then if they
Yeah.
are leaked out, then you have it. So I
So
think we should be very particular. And currently, COVID job is over, so stop all this COVIN, Aadhar or Arogya Setu, everything.
the
You can have a health card which is codified, and that health card should be used everywhere
so
and
you
with
want new health cards. You
documentation.
want new health cards that are not linked. But the problem, Mr.
Yeah,
PKD Nambiar,
unlinked health card. Yeah.
yeah, here's what I imagine. Let's say we have new health cards. When we go to ask for these health cards, they will ask us for our Aadhar details. They will ask us for our PAN card. They will ask us for our passport details. We live in this time when everything, every service seems to be interconnected, right, to our digital identity. And this is not just our digital identity, it is our actual identity. My passport, my Aadhar, my PAN card, this should be private to me. Apart from everything else, it can be misused. It can be misused, it can be sold, right? Do you agree that the minister was too technical or too theoretical when he said the COWIN app is not breached? Because what Pradesh and Dr. Gelada are explaining is that maybe the Telegram bot didn't access this directly from the COWIN app. They just used an associated platform which was also able to access the same data. PKD.
Absolutely. I think we have the data compromisation. I mean, this has happened way back. I mean, I started my first .com business in the year 2000. I remember that how data have been breached from there to now. That your data and my data is not in our custody. Your phone is listening to you. Everything is being recorded all the time. I'll give you one example that and most importantly, what we need to do is that most of these data are not even stored in our shore. It's not even in our country. All your private informations are being stored even in the Western countries, maybe US or any of these countries. Digital colonization is a reality. Whether it is from the point of view of, at least if it is with our own government, we can be little say that okay. And technically, and I agree with the earlier panelists that
Dr. Gelada.
one thing is no, not the
Pranesh.
earlier one. Pranesh. So Pranesh, I agree with him that there is no data which is as safe as we can say that, oh yeah, it's a 360-degree security is being done and it is protected. Anything in IT can be compromised at any point of time. What all any organization can do, whether it is a government or a private or a corporate, they can only try to minimize the risk as much as they can. Otherwise, you see, there are times that we have even heard that even the NASA's website has been hacked. Or sometimes you hear that even the most technologically, the Google some data have been leaked. You remember that the Cambridge Analytica and the Facebook data has been compromised, or whether they are sold
I
or
think the
whatever.
debate is over the denial. Why deny it? Say yes, there's been
No,
a
I
debate.
don't think. See, I'll tell you one. I think once this data comes out, nobody can come and say that, yeah, this is absolutely my database has been taken out or my database has been compromised. Even if somebody takes up a data, there must be some reason for them, just not to access the data. They may modify the data. If you have an access to a database, you can modify it, you can delete it, you can do anything. And if at all, if they wanted to play around and say that, okay, a hacker is coming. For an example, in your own YouTube channel, 3 days, 11,000 videos have been deleted. So I am only saying that, yes, the government also requires some time, even for an IT company or an IT person needs to really study that, is it really been compromised? If at all, if it is compromised, where is it compromised? How much data has it's been gone and etc. So unless and until they have a full proof reason to say that yes, it's been compromised. How can a minister come and say that yes, my data has been compromised? As of now, it is not been compromised.
Let me get Pranesh to respond to that, and then I'll come to the to political spokeswomen. You said, Pranesh, the minister must retract his statement. I was looking at it carefully. He's actually chosen his words very carefully. He says the COWIN app does not appear to be. There it is. It does not appear that the COWIN app or database is being directly breached. In other words, he's not denying an indirect breach. What specifically would you rather have the government say? And PKD also makes an important point. There are cookies on the sites we use. We barely understand them. We surrender our rights to be heard, to be eavesdropped, to have our locations tracked without even understanding it. So for what should we hold the government accountable right now? Pranesh.
So, firstly, the minister is making certain assertions, such as this is from previously stolen data, etc., which right now doesn't seem to be the case. He doesn't have any clear information about it. Even if he does, he hasn't made it available. And what he's saying is directly contradicted by the India Today interview that I cited earlier. So, and if he's hiding behind a half-truth by saying it appears that this hasn't been directly breached, okay, and behind lawyer weasel words like that, which a lawyer would craft, rather than saying that yes, there has been something that's gone wrong, and we will investigate and we will report back to you, and we will take steps to ensure that those who are responsible for this are punished, and that these kinds of things don't happen again in the future. That's what I would like to hear a government official saying, not saying that, I'm not going to say that it might have been indirectly breached, but I'll say it hasn't been directly breached. Now, and very honestly, right now he couldn't have the data, he couldn't have the information from certain or from any other organization to establish that. And further information about this only came out earlier today, not yesterday, when he made the statement. So apart from this, one positive thing I'd like to note is, in this case, there were only a few data points that were actually made available through this Truecaller bot. That is name, mobile number, gender, an ID number, which could include Aadhar, and date of birth, apart from address where vaccination was taken. Now, this allows for a number of things. This allows for a person who has a phone number to connect it to a name, where they previously might not have been able to do so. It allows them to have a date of birth, which is actually not required for pretty much any government service. What is required for many government services is age, not date of birth. So even if you've noticed, in the past, the Indian Railways, when you were booking a ticket, used to ask you for date of birth, but then they realized that that's actually collecting more data than they need. They need age in order to verify whether someone is a senior citizen, in case of accidents or something like that, to be able to identify bodies, but they don't need exact date of birth. So don't collect more information than you need. Don't store more information than you need. And in this case, I'm afraid we actually might be violating regulations relating to Aadhar, relating to the Aadhar sharing of information regulations, Rule 5 and Rule 6, which prohibit actually sharing of Aadhar number without consent of the person. So in this case, some people's Aadhar numbers clearly were shared with this person who was pretending to be a nurse, that was done without people's express consent. So for me, how that these kinds of regulations are being violated should also be investigated by the minister, and so we shouldn't be defensive, and we should actually.
Yeah, I think that's a key point. Why be defensive? These breaches, I think PKD Nambia, you made the point, these breaches have happened globally. They can happen. We're living in a brave new world. There's a lot we don't understand. There's a lot that's challenged by the dark web. Vinita Hariharan, I think the point that's been made by everybody is that the denial is a flat denial, and the denial doesn't add up. And the point is, nobody is saying the BJP has gone and hacked this database, right? Nobody is saying that. So why not come out and be transparent? You're talking about nearly 1 billion Indians here potentially. Ma'am.
Yeah, so Barkha, taking on from the discussions that have happened so far. First of all, I think we're living in times where the digital revolution has actually become so ubiquitous, and it's reached every home and every household. There are millions of stakeholders who are accessing the same database that is there out in the public domain. And as far as having said that, the COWIN platform is one of the most globally recognized and verified platforms, wherein it's extremely firewalled and security arrangements are in place, wherein you cannot access it without an OTP, you couldn't access it without login ID, and there are certified API users who can actually interface with the data that is available in the COWIN database. So now the minister, at this point of time, he couldn't have said more than what he has said, because unless we have investigations done by the computer emergency response team, he cannot actually make a statement in denial, or saying that the database is taken from COWIN or not from COWIN. And there is no proof at the moment to say that entire data has been taken from COWIN. So whatever data that you've seen reflected in the Telegram
But
app,
isn't that a technicality? It may not have been taken from COWIN, but it was uploaded on COWIN. So even if somebody else took it from COWIN, it goes back to COWIN. Of course, it could as easily have been taken from someone's bank account or somebody's airline. It could have been taken from anywhere. But the fact is, when we put our Aadhar onto an account, we no longer know that it will not be taken out and maybe sold or misused.
Barkha, so this is a revolution that's happening. That's a digital revolution where, it's of a proportion that we have never imagined before. And especially post-pandemic, I think digital health infrastructure is becoming a reality more than we can see. And the government of the day has done a great job in actually getting this public health infrastructure in place. And I think we should not miss the larger message of the number of vaccines that have been actually delivered through the COWIN platform. The COWIN platform has facilitated the seamless delivery of vaccinations, right? So in these times, it is inevitable, or it is very obvious that there will be a lot of threats to this database, and so therefore the whole process of firewalling this is in progress, I would say, and there is a national data governance policy, as the minister.
So let me bring in the wing commander from the Congress now. Anuma ma'am, please go ahead.
Barkha, this COWIN data leak is making the headlines now, but in 2018 itself, there was a world's biggest Aadhar card data breach happened, and it happened despite Modi government made a huge claim that the Aadhar data is protected and secured behind 5 feet thick security wall. So is there any data privacy law? Is there even a cyber attack when it happened in AIMS in November 2022? Is there any national security policy against cyber attacks? What we see with this government, it works on ad hocism. There is no sustainable data policy or model towards data security of personal data. Now, on May 22nd itself, this a month ago, not even a month ago, Zivame had fallen prey to significant data breach. And there was a data of 1.5 million customers which was leaked. So what we see here is there is no sustainable policy, there is no accountability. And in 2017, Modi government made a huge issue in the Supreme Court against declaring right to privacy as the fundamental right, and that is where it originates. We think that like the Modi government is not accountable. It doesn't take accountability of anything. We know we are exposed to various different technology, and technology has its drawbacks as well. But where is a sustainable policy? What the government has done against such data breach does not take place. What have they done? Is there any policy? Are you aware?
This is I feel I'm living a bad dream because we've literally gone from the Mojo story being hacked. Some of it was, by the way, our own lack of understanding of how protocols should be followed. And that's the other thing. As users, we have to create a kind of digital awareness that many of us lack. But of course, there is also the accountability of platforms, of governments, of gatekeepers. I want to ask Dr. Gilada before we shift gears to Dorsey. You suggested a health card. Suppose there's a health card. You're basically saying no need for the COWIN app. Am I understanding you right? That ho gaya. Are you saying that?
Yeah, okay. And you should have a smart health card because India is IT capital of the world, and it is such a simple thing to do. I don't know why we are not done till today. Actually, I have been telling this pre-COVID era also that health card, because you go to any hospital, you get admitted, your 3H is done: HIV, hepatitis B, hepatitis C. Now, if you have been already negative for some time, if you have been already vaccinated against hepatitis B, why should you do those tests again at your cost because of hospital policy? So there are a lot of such issues that will be taken care of. Have you taken COVID vaccine? Yes. How many doses you have taken? Everything is in the health card. We didn't need, if we had a smart health card, we didn't need COVID app that time also. But having said that, if there's a COVID now and COVID is over, you would retain whatever data you want for government purpose and release all the information, delete all the information. You don't have to carry that forward. That COVID threat is over. It is not going to come back. If it will come back, you bring back that data which is there in your lock and key.
So if they were going to be a move towards a health card, they'd still ask for your Aadhar details. You'd still have to store them somewhere. So you're back to square one, Dr. Girada. How do we function today? We can't order a hamburger, a vaccine.
There
We
should
can't
not be
order a
Aadhar details.
hamburger, a vaccine, or flowers or a gift without putting our private details somewhere, right?
No, because we put ration on vaccine. We didn't allow vaccine to be made available in public. We didn't allow it to be made available to the doctors. Had it been open policy, you go to government, you give all details. You go to private, you can take it. It was in public's interest to take vaccine. It was not for government. Initially,
Okay.
it is government, but when
I
it is for your own safety, you should have your own system. You should now also, if somebody wants to take a vaccine, let them go to private and take it. Why they have to depend on government? And it is at
Okay.
state exchequer. We pay the taxes, and you keep on giving free of charge every time.
But some might say this is hindsight is 2020. In the middle of the pandemic, we wouldn't have said that, right? So this is the point. Now we know these things. Okay, everybody's wanting to respond. I'll let Ishwar Gilada complete his point, then Anuma, then Pranesh, then PKD. Come on, quickly, we have to move to Jack Dorsey.
No.
Dr. Gilada,
During
yeah.
during COVID also, they said that 2 years security. That 2 years are already 3 years are over. So now there's no security. If you read the COVID details, COVID app details, they said for 2 years security is there. So you said that 2 years security, then you release all information, you delete all information, whatever is required for government to keep it, and then at least make it secure. You see, you need to win people's faith. If in future any calamity, man-made or natural, any other epidemic, pandemic comes, people should have faith in the government system, and that faith
Yeah.
is being lost.
I think that's an important point. Anuma, you want to add to that? Then Pranesh, then PKD. Yeah.
I
Yeah,
wanted to
Anuma.
tell you that why we insist on this. There has to be a policy because there is a record data leak, which is in 2018. There were 2 lakh plus data leaked. In 2019, 3.94 lakhs. In 2020, 11.58 lakhs. In 2021, 14.02 lakhs, and in 2022 13.91 lakhs, and I'm sure in 2023 it's going to be much huge. Please check the tweet of Congress president. He has given the entire data and also the source from where it has been obtained. So there is a need to make a proper policy, not this ad hocism of giving statements, but a firm policy on this.
Okay, Pranesh, you wanted to make a point?
Yes. First, that this is potentially one of the largest data leaks ever. This points to the need for a data protection law, which limits what information is collected, for what purpose, for how long it is stored, and provides an accountability mechanism if those regulations aren't followed. The current Information Technology Act, Section 43A, excludes the government from being held accountable. It only applies to corporate entities.
Right. So, in
The
other words,
RBI,
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
for the current leak, there are a couple of things that now need to be done. One, the RBI, SEBI, etc., need to inform mutual fund companies. You need to inform banks, etc., that they should not be using date of birth as a security question. They should not be presuming that that is secret information and so on, because this information about what your date of birth is possibly out in the open. RBI, SEBI, etc., need to take that action.
I think that's
Ayushman Bharat.
Yeah.
Just a couple more points. Sorry. Ayushman Bharat needs to be changed based on this experience. How the health ID that we are unrolling in India needs to account for this. I don't think a purely decentralized system that was suggested by the doctor would work, because if your smart health card is lost, if it's burnt in a fire or anything, then all your data goes with it. There has to be some amount of off-card access to data, as well as for those people who feel they're capable of keeping everything with them, allow them to keep it decentralized on their own smart card. I don't think that a purely smart card-based system works for all of India, especially given our levels of illiteracy, given that natural calamities may strike. And at a personal level, I feel that everyone should be advised not to keep their date of birth or any family member's date of birth as their PIN for their ATM, for UPI, for their credit card, etc., because you should not assume that this is private, secret information, and that's one of the things from.
But the problem is that so many people ask for that, right? When you're filling in a form, date of birth is one of the most routine things that's asked for.
Sure. So don't use something that other people ask for, that other people may have access to, as something that's secret, which is your PIN number. Don't use it as a PIN number.
Got it. Don't use the most commonly imaginable passwords, I think. Let me briefly get in PKD Nambiar. We do have to talk a little bit about the other tech storm raging, which is Jack Dorsey. I think the point is that Mr. Chandrasekhar, these points that Pranesh made, Dr. Gilada made about one, no need for COWIN anymore. Stop it. Migrate this data into another model. The second is that you need affiliated wings of government now to be calling, mutual fund managers, for example, is something that Pranesh said. We haven't seen a statement from the government that all of this is going to happen or is happening.
Well, there are two things. One, I agree with Dr. Gilada that I think the COWIN, the application's use and the purpose has already been solved. I think it is the time for them to pack it up and keep it safe somewhere, so that whenever if it requires, they will be able to keep it back. The other part is that you and me are not safe with regard to our personal information anymore. If anybody whomsoever is saying that, oh yeah, I am very, very good and etc., sorry to tell you, I have been in the tech business almost when I was 23. I started my .com business, as I said. No one is safe with regard to your private information. If somebody wanted to get that information, it is so easy. In fact, I'm surprised that even many of you don't even know that there are applications available wherein you pay and you get the complete data of every individual. There are times it may be 5 rupees, 10 rupees, 20 rupees, or all your professional and personal information can be served to you. Of course, it may not have the Aadhar number, it may not have your vaccination status and etc. So I think we are living in a different world altogether. The minister, in this case, that we are expecting too much from a minister in the day one. So there has to be an IT audit, there has to be a security check on this thing. If it is a massive attack, what happens is that it is not just they would have deleted the data, they would have manipulated the data, they would have edited the data, whatever, something they would have done it. In this case, so far, we don't know. And the way that these informations have been provided, it doesn't look like it is coming from COWIN. It could be from anywhere else. Yes, somebody was telling that maybe a third party.
Put on COWIN. It may not be coming from COWIN, PKD, but it's the information we put on COWIN. I just want to say this. Pradesh, am I saying this
That's
correctly?
absolutely precisely.
Yeah.
Precisely, I'm saying that I think let there be a very good audit, and both a technical audit and as well as the other audits,
Okay.
the security people.
I'm
Then
so
we
sorry.
should be able to judge the
Okay,
government.
I need to
Yeah.
shift gear, but I want to allow Dr. Gilada because he may not want to say much on Jack Dorsey. I'm going to allow him to say one last thing on what this means for health management, because I think what really stays with me is health services. People are desperate for health services. When you go to a hospital, the hospital asks you for your Aadhar card, your PAN card. You're going to give it there. Right? Anyone asks you for anything, you're going to give it there. Just a last 30-seconder before we shift gears.
No, I think we should give information which is not reachable, and we should check and balances in foresight that if it is likely to be breached, then what is the information required in health card. So the purpose should be served, not the side effect of the purpose. Currently, we see that it is completely commodified. It is going everywhere. And secondly, we need to do a kind of forensic audit also, that how it is breached, from where it is breached. And now the minister said that it was breached earlier. That means after 2 years, we say that it was breached in 2022, 23. So telling post facto, it doesn't help. We should have, we should not have denial, blaming others, and then coming to the issue. We should straightway say that yes, something has happened. We are investigating, and we will plug the holes.
Yeah, I think you made a very important point. Why the denials? So there have been two denials in the last 24 hours. One is on the app, and I think the app leak concerns many more Indians than the next denial. The next denial has been to former Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey, who on a television program made the claim that at the height of the farmers' protest, Twitter was basically muscled into disabling some accounts. Listen in.
Jack, one of the things, you're in a unique position. You believe in free speech. That's something I've never doubted about you. You also are in the unique position of having run one of these companies. Can you give us some anecdotes, as you alluded to, foreign governments and the pressures that you were under, if able, just to give the audience an idea of what it is really like to be in a position to have some of the most powerful people literally on earth coming to you and saying, demanding things of your company? And as someone with principles, how did you navigate that?
India, for example, India is a country that had many requests of us around the farmers' protest, around particular journalists that were critical of the government, and it manifested in ways such as we will shut Twitter down in India, which is a very large market for us. We will raid the homes of your employees, which they did. We will shut down your offices. If you don't follow suit. And this is India, a democratic country.
Right. Let me actually bring this to Vinita Hariharan, if I may. Ma'am, go ahead. Vinita?
Yeah, Barkha. So, so what is the question, Barkha? That
you heard that comment. What did you feel when you heard it?
All right.
I didn't think I needed to add a question to that. It was such a big statement or such a big claim, right? That raids were threatened, a shutdown was threatened. It doesn't do well for our sort of position as the world's largest democracy.
So see, Twitter also as a social media platform is a responsible platform, and we have 48 million users of Twitter. And so when we have such a big, socio-political reality happening as the protests of the farm laws, so I think social media platforms also have to be equally responsible in what they portray and what they actually give out to the public out there. And therefore, the government of the day plays its role in in establishing checks and balances, and also not controlling the media, but at least streamlining the responses that can come, because it's even in otherwise it's a very inflammatory kind of environment at that point of time. So that was the sentiment with which the government has approached Twitter at that point of time, to ensure that there's no more inflammatory messages that goes out in the public domain. So but there were no threats to their shutting down or all of that which they claim. But also, I think it's also about it's also about maintaining that balance and in the public sentiment when everything else is raging. So So that was the
So let me add Anuma to that, and then I'll open it up. Social media has become an instrument for potential trouble in a legally sensitive situation. I have personally seen, for example, riots or terrorism, where internet shutdowns are the first thing that happen, not just in India, but in some cases globally. That is the position the BJP is taking. What would you say?
Government has already put the fourth pillar of democracy, which is the journalists, under their thumb. And then they have issued, because then the social media platforms, the OTT platforms came into play. The farmers' protests wouldn't have been shown unless these people were there. So in February 2021, when the farmers' protest was in its peak, the government issued guidelines on 25th February 2021, if I remember. And then subsequently, on 29th October 2022, government notifies amendment to the information technology, and same guidelines which was created in 2021. And in that, while releasing that, Rajiv Chandrasekhar states that India under Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi, who is a trustee of rights of its citizen and digital nagriks. So basically, what he, to me, I think that it was indicated that he takes charge of all kind of communication and everything. So what Jack Dorsey says, don't we all realize? You see, whatever, whosoever is an anchor or a good journalist with various media platforms, they have already left those platforms. Individually, they are running their YouTubes. Tomorrow, the government, under these rules, they can rope them in. And Jack Dorsey, who was talking on Breaking Point, which only has some 9 lakh subscribers, what could be his gain? Because today, this platform, one of the anchor is a left-leaning anchor, the other one is a right-leaning anchor. So Jack Dorsey knew what he's speaking, and whatever he has said. Now again, minister is saying that he is whatever he is saying is outright lie by Jack Dorsey. This is what is with the government, very prominent with this Modi government. They always go on a denial mode, and if somebody says something, they say there is a foreign hand, or any one of the surveys or any survey comes, then they just outrightly
Okay,
reject.
let me bring the others. Let me bring the others. You're saying it's a continuation of the curbing of the free media. Pranesh, I want you to come in here. This isn't the first time that governments have clashed with social media networks. It isn't the first government to clash with it either. What do you make of Dorsey's comments? I mean, Dorsey. Some might be also a little cynical about Dorsey. It's easy to speak when you're no longer in the chair.
Sure, but a couple of things. One, I think I don't quite understand why there's so much outrage about Jack Dorsey's comments. He's just reiterating something that we've known for a while. We know that a member of parliament, Sukhram Singh Yadav, his account was suspended in 2021. He asked for an explanation in parliament. He didn't get one, and his account remains suspended to date. No case has been filed against him for any hate speech or anything. So why was his account asked to be suspended by the Indian government? We don't have an answer to that yet. 2 years after the fact, we still don't have an answer. Caravan magazine, its account was suspended for a while in 2021. Twitter put out a release then saying that news entities, journalists, activists, politicians were amongst the people that they'd been asked to, whose Twitter accounts they'd been asked to suspend. This doesn't sound like the government asking for certain kinds of extremist hate speech to be suspended on Twitter. And even if it was, did the government take any action? Were any cases filed in courts in India under the IPC for triggering, say, communal discord of any kind? No, not that I know of. So if the government is saying that these were certain extremists and we needed to take action at that point of time, then they should have actually taken action under the law.
So, for
Not just
example, if you can compare it to the recent law and order situation in Punjab, where there was an actual insurgent, a verified insurgent carrying guns on the run from the law, and there was a sense, I'm talking about Amritpal Singh in Punjab, and certain pro-Khalistan accounts were suspended. The BJP might offer that up as an example of a genuine law and order problem where you have a fugitive on the run and you can't afford to have a Punjab go back to the 80s. Is that a better example than the one that we're talking about, which was the farm law protests?
quite possibly, but even in this case, we have to understand that in India, under the laws declared by the Supreme Court, merely praising Khalistan is not a crime. Even praising Khalistan in the immediate aftermath of the assassination of Indira Gandhi was found by the Indian Supreme Court not to be a crime unless it actually led to certain kinds of action, unless there was a call for violence or anything that accompanied it, and there was a credible threat because of that call. So being in favor of Khalistan, whether you and I agree with it or not, is not a crime in India. And what was outrageous, I thought, was not only people who were calling for violence, but even journalists covering it in the recent past. All the stuff, all the discord in Punjab, their accounts were suspended as well, inexplicably, I find. Okay, so there is a real problem that we have right now, and we've had for a while. I don't think it is anything that is unique to one another, with censorship, with the government not using the laws to actually take action against people who engage in hateful conduct, who actually engage in calling for violence. In fact, many such people who do call for violence are let off and aren't even investigated in India. And we've seen that riot after riot. Yet, those who don't call for violence, members of parliament, for crying out loud, okay, their accounts have been suspended and no explanation has been given by the government to parliament.
Let me take this to PKD Nambiar. For example, we've had comments eulogizing Nathuram Godse, the assassin of Mahatma Gandhi, right? We've had these comments made at public events and then replicated on social media. We've had other hate speeches. And Pranesh makes the point that those are slower to shut down. Yes, I'm uncomfortable reading support for Khalistan. I can understand a police officer on the run for a fugitive is not going to want those accounts to thrive. But we have to go by the law, right? We have to go by the law. And I think the point that Pranesh is making is the Supreme Court held that unless your words specifically incite violence, they cannot be considered seditious. That is the Supreme Court definition of sedition. PKD Nambiar, Jack Dorsey's comments, how would you respond?
It's very, I'm Pranesh, being a tech person, and I'm hearing from him this kind of a comment gives me a feeling that all is not safe in India. I think somebody who is praising Khalistan is not acceptable to me and to the millions or maybe a billions of Indians, maybe except very few numbers of people who may be here in Canada or in Australia.
Can I briefly allow him to interject? Can we unmute Pranesh, please? Can we unmute Pranesh? Pranesh, go ahead, Pranesh, you're saying something?
To be clear, I'm a lawyer by training. I've studied law, and whether it makes us comfortable or not, what I said is the law in India and the rights people have under Article 1918. And it really doesn't matter if I agree with it or not, whether it makes me feel uncomfortable. Okay, that is the law. That is what the government.
Can I ask you to clarify this before Mr. Nambiar responds? It may not be sedition unless the words in sort of incite violence, but in a what is it called? In an inflammable situation, let's say the police is tasked with stopping riots. The police has a law and order situation. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Are there provisions of the law under which you can withhold information, you can block information because it's needed to maintain public order?
Absolutely. So Section 69A, under which the government normally takes these kinds of actions, does allow for that. Under requirements of public order for national security, it does actually allow for blocking of accounts. Except my contention is that has never been demonstrated. The government never says, look, here is what the person was saying. Here is why we felt the need to block their account. There is no accountability at all. Why was a member of parliament's account blocked? I'd like an answer to that. The member of parliament raised it in parliament himself and asked for an answer to that. To this day in 2023, his account remains blocked. He didn't call for violence. Why was his account blocked? And similarly, this is just one case out of dozens and hundreds, in fact, at that time in 2021, hundreds of accounts were sought to be blocked. And in fact, there is a court case right now in Karnataka High Court where Twitter has challenged many of the orders, many of the requests by the Indian government, saying that those requests do not comply with Indian law. So I'm not asking for some kind of absolutism in terms of free speech. What I'm calling for is for the government to follow Indian law, which it currently doesn't seem to be doing, and for us as citizens to hold the government to account for not following Indian law, and for courts to hold them.
Okay, so let me. I think Mr. PKD Nambiar has lost the bijli at home. Can we add him, please, and just at least get what he's saying? Go ahead. Did we just? I don't know where he went. We just lost him. Let me actually get Vinita Hariharan to respond to that. Vinita, please respond, and then I'll give Dr. Gilada the last word.
Yeah, so just as we said, there are provisions which enable us in the Constitution to curb certain expressions when it is inflammatory, when there is an inflammatory environment, and which incites violence. So the particular MP's case also, which has been cited to Sukram Singh Yadav, was also in the context of the farm protests that it was withdrawn and where the Twitter account was frozen, and it was, so it's at that point of time, it was an extremely riotous environment. And so the government was in every right to actually take steps, precautionary steps to curb further violence on account of such expressions on social media handles such as Twitter. So I think that is my take on that. So by and large, this has been a very responsible government, and we cannot have a laissez-faire situation in a country like India with
okay. I think we'll have to. I think no one is calling for a laissez-faire situations in situations of extreme law and order. But Jack Dorsey's exact statement is journalists who were critical were shut down. So I think that's a different category. I don't think he's saying Khalistanis were shut down or and so on. Dr. Gilada, we've left you out of this conversation, but there's no reason to assume that you don't have an opinion on it. Do go ahead with the last word to you.
Thank you very much. Basically, at this stage, gracefully accept that leakage has happened. Go for basic security, cyber crime security, forensic security audit, and then come to some conclusion. That will maintain the faith of people in the government. So okay. Beyond that,
I just think it's been a tumultuous 24 hours, and governments across the world, but also in India, should now prepare themselves that a lot of the new political fault lines are going to be basically in the world of tech. You are going to be dealing with hacking, free speech issues, law and order issues. Your battlefields are shifting online, and frankly, the BJP was an early mover in creating a digital identity and a digital following, and now it's going to have to deal with all of these challenges. A lot of principles of contemporary politics are also going to be online. We'll thank our panel, to Pranesh, to Wing Commander Acharya, to Dr. Gilada, to Vinita Hariharan, and earlier to PKD Nambiar. Thank you, and to our audience as ever, thank you. See you tomorrow.
It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.